it's great to talk about water. You guys have made an amazing initiative. Godspeed, Nolan. More people should be talking about water. It's another thing when it's talking to you and telling you, you consume this much. You're below or above the average in your apartment.
Raghu, you're into smart metering as of now.
Yes.
The meters that I have in my home in Mysore, just before the recording, I was discussing this with you. I would not want to touch it because I don't know which frog is going to jump out from there. And they're very old, from the maybe
That's
60s
true.
or the 70s when it was built, the house. So if I have a smart meter in my home installed over there, how does it change the way I consume water?
For starters, you wouldn't go
No
have to
frog
go
issue.
and no
Yes,
frog
no
issue.
frog
You wouldn't
issue.
have to go near the frog
Okay.
to see how much water you consume today. Dealing with any of these bureaucrats would be like dealing with the CEO of any other commercial enterprise, especially a board like the BWSSB. They have been pioneering a lot of initiatives and they're very open to embracing technology. So we're doing all this effort. All this revenue is being lost because of leakages, because of pilferage, a lot of different issues that the board will face on a day-to-day basis. We will value another very precious resource like like petrol more than water. Why? Because it's 100 rupees. This is 10 paise. If you're getting from water tankers, if you're getting from board, it's 1 paise. Why can't we treat water like that? We don't, because it's not expensive enough.
So if you have the money, you'll waste water.
No, but even people with money, when they buy an AC, or when you're buying a refrigerator, or when you're buying any appliance, you're going to look at that star rating, and then you look at two. If this is 2-star, that is 3-star. You're like, oh, I want to go for the 3-star.
Yeah.
So it's not about whether you have money. It's just the way you have to look at water. Electricity is at that sweet spot where it is not too expensive, and neither is it too cheap to disrespect. So
water should be
water
there.
should be kind of somewhere there.
So can technologies like AI and IoT-based solutions be the answer to water conservation issues, water management issues? In fact, many experts have spoken in the past, tell us that this technology should have been adopted like yesterday. Now, today's guest will actually explain and delve more into this. Mr. Raghunandan Prasad, MD of Konarak Meters, thank you for being over here.
Thank you, Nolan, for having me. It is a privilege to be here. It's great to talk about water. You guys have made an amazing initiative. Godspeed, Nolan. More people should be talking about water.
Thank you, Raghu. In fact, the idea about starting Let's Talk Water is, apart from we talk about politics,
Yeah.
when we're having dinner, when we're out, when we're driving, we talk about everything in this world except which is actually really important for us. The weather's changed, it's already hot. The government has come out with a report stating that I think some 80 odd wards are already suffering from water issues.
Right.
So that's the reason I want to ask you, because you've been in the metering business for a very long time. Can technology play a role in water management? We can't waste water anymore.
I certainly think technology will play a large role in it. It will certainly make the system more transparent. If you know every day how much water you consumed, it would certainly change the way you think about water. It is something that you're seeing on your phone every day, like another WhatsApp message, and you get, okay, you consume so much water today. How many of us know how much water we consume today? So it changes the way you look at it. And certainly technology will aid this conservation toward how we can manage our water better. Because if you don't know how much water you're using, how will you know how much to save? How will you know where you wasted that water? So the first step begins with measuring how much water you're actually using.
So how do you do that?
With various different tech. Now you can talk about conventional technologies like mechanical meters, which are ideal for households because of the way we receive water every day. It's not a continuous system. So and in the distribution channels, if you're using higher tech, you're using more accurate meters. You are putting meters on all the commercial establishments and industries that will draw probably 80% of the overall consumption. It certainly helps them track and balance their water and know, okay, where water is required and how do we build up the reservoir in that area? How can we continuously let this region have water? So tech definitely enable different forms, principles of metering and the different technology and how it communicates with us today. Because it's one thing to have that meter sitting there on its own. It's another thing when it's talking to you and telling you, you consume this much, you're below or above the average in your apartment. That kind of figure is a very interesting thing to have. It kind of will game more people into thinking, okay, this all my neighbors are consuming a lot lesser than me. It may put an incentive on you, maybe guilt you into thinking, maybe I won't wash my car every day. Do it three days in a week or so. It definitely will spark a behavioral change if we are starting to measure it, and you'll only measure it if it's valuable.
Raghu, you're into smart metering as of now.
Yes.
The meters that I have in my home in Mysore, I mean, just before the recording, I was discussing this with you. I would not want to touch it because I don't know which frog is going to jump out from there. And they're very old, from maybe the 60s or the 70s when it was built, the house. But what are these smart meters? And you claim that if I have that, I'll be able to actually have data on my fingertips.
Right.
How much water I'm using,
Right.
What's the flow? Can you just tell me more about that? It's interesting.
So a conventional meter requires you to go near the meters, or open the lid and see your consumption. It looks kind of like your car odometer or something. And then it's a way to calculate how much water you consume. You can do that yourself. Every day the meter is going to work. If you are conscious about it, you don't need a smart meter. You can go every day and look at it.
So that's a mechanical
meter.
Yeah.
So the life of these meters, that really depends on the boards. When it is maintained by the board, it is a property of the board. Okay. They choose when to replace it and they all have a life. It cannot work forever. So, and that depends on how much consumption is happening, how much hardness is there in the water, if its scaling is there, how much silt is there. So they will have a fixed lifetime. Any product will have a fixed lifetime. So it's the responsibility of the board to ensure that the meters are replaced within that given lifetime and make sure, those are properly disposed of when you're having fresh, accurate meters. So you know when, and a good quality meter. So you know when 1,000 liters of water has passed. You know 1,000 liters of water has passed with the error that is allowed to function at. And that helps the board because it is the only device there that generates revenue for them. It is not pipelines and everything do that, but what is telling the board this much water has been consumed? The meter. It's not the motor, it is not a pump, it is not a valve, it is not anything else. It is the meter that is telling the board this is how much you can charge them now because this is how much they've consumed. But because of various different forces, the meter may not even be used. Even if you have a meter, that doesn't mean you're paying for what you use. Maybe you have a fixed tariff system. And within a high slab, say so many liters of water, it is free or it is in a very subsidized rate, it is irrelevant. So they don't feel the need to replace the meter itself because they're not getting any revenue from it. It's like anyway, they're giving them water for free or this much water. What does it matter? Why should we pay any more money and get a meter that we don't need to use anyway? Because the slab is so high or it is already free in Kolkata and Chennai and all that, so many places. It was a big issue for them to even install the meters in the first place. And once it's installed, no one is really going there and checking it. They are getting their fixed free quotas and they're not bothered whether the meter needs to be replaced or not because it's not being utilized.
But in Bangalore, smart meters are being used?
In Bangalore, smart meters are not being used widespread. They are thinking of having pilot projects for it. But in maybe industrial and commercial establishments where water consumption is very high, and for their own recording, from their reservoir to one distribution channel or something, to a trunk line, to monitor and balance their things, they may be using smart meters or they may be using very modern equipment for it. But for the domestic users like you and me, for our houses, there is no widespread installation of smart meters in Bangalore.
So if I have a smart meter in my home installed over there, how does it change the way I consume water?
For starters, you wouldn't go
You don't
have to go near the frog to see how much water you consume today. It will be on your phone. And normally today we are so hooked on our phones, if it's on your phone and you're getting notifications, it's kind of always in your thought because the moment you have an app for it, the moment you have something that's giving you notifications, it's something that you're seeing every day. It's like your bank balance or how much you're on your credit card limit. you're getting a notification. Do you know your water limit or water quantity that how much you consume? There's no notification, but you're getting this now every day. So that automatically changes the way you may be looking at water. And
But does it really change the way? Because it's like this. Why I'm asking is, if you have money, it really doesn't matter.
That's the main thing. That comes to the crux of the point is we all say what is the elixir of life? It's it is so valuable and everything, but we are so hypocritical about it. We will value another very precious resource like like petrol more than water. Why? Because it's 100 rupees. This is 10 paise. If you're getting from water tankers, if you're getting from board, it's 1 paise per liter. That it's nothing to you. The moment you make it more expensive, then they're like, oh, it's valuable. You're not going. You see all the cabbies and all that. They're not keeping the engines idle in the traffic signal. They're shutting it off. Or sometimes they don't even let you turn on the AC here because you're going to consume more petrol. Why can't we treat water like that? We don't, because it's not expensive enough for them to pinch their pockets or for them to think. But it is more valuable. Without water, you can't exist. Without petrol, maybe the highways won't work. But it literally you cannot live without water. But we are so hypocritical in the way we look at water. That has to change, and that happens if, like you were talking about, if they really increase the revenue, not to make it hurt people or anything, but just to make them like, what? Because there is a lot of work that goes into it. The BWSSB pays crores to BESCOM to pump the water. Bangalore is not an easy place to supply water. It's full of hills. It's a very difficult terrain. So they have to have individual reservoirs in higher places and all that, use gravity so they can avoid extra pumping.
Water from the
and in some places, and they're getting it from the car, they have to pump it. It's a lot of effort. It's a Herculean task to get these many. They have 10 lakh connections or so. It's and more, and commercial ones maybe 12 lakhs. So, but the point is, it's not easy. And in fact, there's a funny article. The BESCOM was going to cut power to the BWSSB because of late payment of bills. It's hilarious. They should all be on the same page saying water is water. They are going to get BESCOM is like no, you are consuming too much because there are so many pumps to pump water everywhere. You're not paid on time, and they're going to cut it. And there was a big scuffle. But the point is, it's absurd that they are thinking in this way when they have to see the bigger picture. Like, okay, make it more, because you are spending so much money. It is a lot of work, filter water, and then you are treating all the water. It's a lot of work to do. You get paid for it in properly for that water, for all the effort that goes into it, and automatically people will start changing the way they use water and the way they think about it in the first place.
Raghu, hence the question, if politicians decide to increase the price of water, it's almost akin to them losing the next elections. The Deputy Chief Minister did speak about it. He says that we have to increase the tariffs. We have to increase the tariffs is good, but do you suppose that they need to increase it to a level where this is the amount that the BWSSB is actually spending to pump the water over here and supply it to us, and we pay exactly for that? Because two things. One, I believe personally that we'll actually have value for water, and two, there'll be money in the hands of the water board to maybe bring in new technologies. You need money for all that.
So I totally agree with you. Definitely, they should look at look at how to change the tariff system to make it so that they are profitable. But one thing that's interesting to say is the BWSSB has been a profitable utility for a very long time, and at least in respect to Karnataka now, most of the resources are used as bargaining chips with the public to pander for votes. So, the electricity they gave free now, and the transport is being given free. So water is left here untouched, and it was doing fine by itself. But because now so many other of the utilities and the municipalities are bleeding, they seem to think, okay, maybe the board is all right. They are profitable. Maybe then why not increase more tariff from this, and maybe it's to do that to supplement the bleeding happening elsewhere, or maybe they feel, okay, this is too subsidized already, we should make it higher. we have no idea what goes on in their thought. Or maybe it is to say, if to be very optimistic, maybe it is they're thinking along the same lines as us. That if we increase the value of it, maybe people will be a lot more conscious of how they use water too, because it becomes then something that people will see it is a valuable resource. Okay, you're paying more for it, it increases automatically in its perceived value.
But you suppose it will actually happen?
No. I don't know what
Your personal opinion.
My personal opinion.
Because see, you've been there, you've been in this business
So
for about
what would
25
happen?
years.
What would happen is they are in need of funds, so they will probably implement it because they know they can get it from the board. Because people will need water, they can't stop drinking water, so they will get this. What will happen is the next cycle, someone else will come and say, you know what, I'm going to cut down water tariffs, or we're going to give water for free, or the limit is so high now, so it's almost free. So then the people, they pander to that again. They're using any resources now. It's not no different from electricity. It's no different from transport. It's no different from any resource a city or a country has to give. So they will probably try to use it as a bargaining chip for.
But then, Raghu, how do you change the mentality of?
They should keep these things should not be touched. You know what? Water, electricity, these things, they should be at a subsidized rate or whatever rate you want to give it, but you should charge for it. Electricity is a fair enough example to see, because it's not too expensive. It is all right, and you are more conscious when you're using it. Now that begins to think how we actually look at water, and why I say we are so hypocritical. When you go to an electronic store, you look at your AC. What's the star rating on that AC, right? But when with water, when you're building a new bathroom, you're like, you know what, I'm going to get this big overhead shower, but the shower won't work with your tank. So you have to get a big pressure pump, and the pressure pump consumes electricity, plus it's supplying water to you at like 15 to 18 liters per minute. That's almost 1,000 liters an hour. That amount of water, that rate of flow, it's coming in your shower.
But we're supposed to be using only what, 130 or 135 liters
supposedly,
per day,
yeah.
per
But
person.
people with fancy bathrooms and a pressure pump, it's 1,000 liters per hour. 18 liters in a minute.
No, so Raghu, that's my question.
So
if you have the money, you'll waste water.
No, but even people with money, when they buy an AC, or when you're buying a refrigerator, or when you're buying any appliance, you're going to look at that star rating. And then you look at if this is 2-star, that is 3-star, you're like, I'm going to go for 3-star.
Yeah.
And summer's on the corner, everyone's buying ACs. And everyone's going to buy, and I tell you what sells the most, the one with the highest power rating. Because you're so conscious how much electricity your appliances use. Your washing machine, you're going to check. Everything you're going to check. Because, okay, next 10 years, I'm probably going to use this washing machine. I might as well save. So you are investing more money into something that probably costs more, with a lower electricity, with higher stars, than its competing products. So that what we think, and we are spending a lot of money on it. So it's not about whether you have money, it's just the way you have to look at water. Okay, and yes, driving the price up will help it, but it should kind of come into this thing of electricity and everything else, because electricity is at that sweet spot where it is not too expensive, and neither is it too cheap to disrespect. So
water should be
water
there.
should be kind of somewhere there. That would be probably.
Now you have installed your smart meters.
Right.
So what changes are you seeing? What sort of data are you getting? What changes are you seeing, especially maybe say the apartment complexes?
Right. So that's quite interesting to talk about. Now we have done maybe about 1,000+ installations in different apartments. It's not much yet, but we see a trend in many apartments thinking, okay, we have to take control of this situation. It is a problem. And it is, these associations, they function in their own way. There's a lot of politics and everything involved. So they don't work as fast as you would think they would, but a lot of them are having this conversation about water. And when they do install it, most of the time it's in a situation where they would add a borewell and the well goes dry. That's another saying, like you only know the value of water when the well runs dry. Benjamin Franklin, I think, said that. So that's when it's happened. Then they are reliant on these water tankers. Those guys come in, and they don't even if you get water, they don't have control over the water anymore. This guy, the tanker guy, will say, no, I'm not coming today. I'm busy, or this or that. They are totally at the mercy of these water tankers. So even if they have money to pay, which they do, they are still not assured water. So with that, again, these things, when even if you have money, you may not have access to water. If you're living in a fancy apartment in Sarjapur or so many other places, they have actually no water in their borewell. When they built the thing, they thought we're going to have water forever because there's a borewell here. It went dry. They can't drill any lower because it's just not there. And it's seasonal. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not there, but it's not enough for the whole apartment. Even if they're using it, it's like in tandem. Sometimes it works with the water tankers. So they get the water from the water tankers. They can't even meter what they're doing in front of them, because if they do so, he won't answer his phone the next time. So they just have to make do. If he says 6,000 liters, you believe him, it is 6,000 liters. And I've not seen a single water tanker probably that's not leaking on the road. Have you noticed?
The entire, you know where they're going.
You know where they're going, leave jail. So you know which apartments are short of water also. You can track them. And that's the point. So they have they're kind of pushed into a corner. So now what do? They think, okay, we need to start somewhere. They don't even know how much they consume. So they have to have meters in there. And then many of the time they have budget constraints. So I'll tell you the cycle of how this goes. They'll have budget constraints. They say that I can't buy a smart meter. The association won't allow me to do so. So they go for a conventional meter. They say the maintenance guy or that security guy will take a reading and he'll tell me. So it should be okay. And after a few months, they call me again. They say, the maintenance guy was just taking 2 readings and extrapolating it onto the rest of the 64. We don't know how much water actually is being used 3 months ago. So they don't have any record or control, because there is always scope for human error when it's, drudgery tasks like going and taking readings and noting it down and subtracting it from the previous reading to say, this is how much you consume. You cannot expect your security guard to do that.
So you're saying these smart meters.
So the smart meter that comes is going to do all this for you. You put it there.
Individual flats?
Individual flats.
Wow.
Individual flats, that flat, he knows how much water he has consumed today. Okay, and he will know how much water he consumed 3 months ago. If he suddenly, I paid too much that day, I was on vacation. So there can't be a chance I consume so much. And then they go on and thinking, and they're talking about water. Do you see? They actually are talking about water in their apartment WhatsApp groups. It becomes a point of contention for them to say, some guy will say, I want to put water meters. The other guy will say no, because he has a family of 5. Now he's paying the same as a single person sitting there, or a couple that's sitting in a neighboring apartment. They all pay the same. Why should they pay the same?
So basically what you're saying, Raghu, is not that you have 2-3 water tankers coming and filling, and 1 or 2 families actually massively using the water, some not using it, but the smart meter changes everything.
Changes everything, because now you pay for what you use. Before, it is fixed, tied up with your maintenance charge or some charge, and you're paying something. Even if you're using 1,000, this guy is using 100, you're paying the same. Now he's going to pay for what he's going to pay. So why will he agree to it now? He's going to pay.
Something like when you all go to a restaurant.
Correct.
I'm
correct.
sure
You go Dutch.
one person eats more, one person eats less, and then you say we go Dutch.
Exactly.
What?
Exactly.
I had this one. Okay.
It's exactly like that. So then that's when they think, okay, we should have, because this is the only fair way to do it. And once you have smart meters, you know what you're consuming. And it kind of, we had one incident where the person kept saying, I'm not even in station, I don't even stay in the apartment, but yet you're charging me after fitting the meter. It's not fair, it's not working. And then we asked them for the keys and all that, and the association and all that was very helpful. So they went, and that person somehow got to know after checking everything that the flush was slowly leaking some amount. It was just going unnoticed.
What do you say?
And they saved water. And they knew they otherwise that leakage could have not been pinpointed for, because it doesn't even stay there. So, and that water is just going. And one more thing, like the faucet of that thing, it will be leaking somewhere, and those come under some pressure. So it's a lot of water that they would have otherwise gone undetected if not for having smart meters.
This is very interesting. So you're saying just by having a smart meter, we can actually focus on leakages, because if I'm not using that much, where the water is and thereby manage your water.
You can manage your water.
Fabulous.
And I'm sure we all have that one tap in your house that's kind of iffy, that will happen. Small little drops will happen, and if only you know how to tighten it, and if some guest leaves it open, it's dripping. You're like, oh, actually that's
so call a plumber and fix it.
Fix it right now. So many times those things, okay, I'll do it next week. And much can goes up, but that's water is getting lost. And this kind of bleeding from in your own household, you will find out with, when you meet metering and smart metering, it helps because you're constantly in touch with it.
Raghu, I was just thinking, now when you mentioned that they go in for these smart meters the moment their borewells run dry, do we meter the amount of water that we pump out of the borewells, or is it just that fine, I've dug a borewell, I'm just paying the electricity?
So I think so far across the country, these bore wells and the amount of water that they're depleting from the system has gone unnoticed. But there has been some initiatives by the government. They created they had this board called the Central Groundwater Authority, which before was a kind of R&D institute with a lot of just scientists and all that. They've kind of given them more teeth, and in some states they have their own, division of it for the state for groundwater. So far, what they have done is they have tried to meter these commercial and industrial users of water because they feel they are using water at a larger scale, and they have not yet come to domestic users. So households and residents, there is no interaction with the board or any kind of directive for them to meter their borewells. But it has happened at commercial and industrial levels where they are supposed to install a meter. And
But since you deal with smart meters, I'm just thinking this out aloud. If we start to meter every single borewell, a smart meter, one is we know exactly how much water is being pumped out. And two, those people also will know that this is the amount of water they're actually utilizing. Will not things change?
it certainly will. There's another tech that you can use with borewells. You have these water level controllers. So it like now a flow meter, a water meter or a flow meter will tell you how much water is passing through it. So we'll know, okay, this much volume of water has passed, and you'll have a record of it.
But you're not being charged for that, right?
But they will be charged for it.
Okay.
The commercial and industrial users have to install a certain type of meter for their borewell, and that will be monitored, and they have to pay the tariff that they have agreed with, or this department will charge them. So they are trying to charge for it, but this does not happen to the scale of households and domestic users.
But you know why I'm asking this? I'm just thinking about this. Like, if you have a well, you're drawing that water, and it rains. Somehow, next to the well, you have a garden, water is seeping in.
True.
And when you have a borewell,
Yeah.
most of these places, the buildings, your apartments,
Yeah.
it's all concrete. You
Correct.
just have that borewell over there. You are only utilizing that water. You are not doing
Correct. You're not
anything
replenishing.
to replenish it or recharge the groundwater.
That's true.
So having a meter, you're paying for this. So you will be a little bit careful.
Definitely. So the other tech you can use is you have these, like I was saying, these controllers. So you know the level of water in your borewell.
Okay.
So you will know if you've dug at 1,000 meters into it, 1,000 feet or whatever it is, however deep your borewell is. You know how much water, at what level the water is in that borewell. So if it's really low, okay, you can kind of foresee that maybe in the coming months, if this trend continues, the borewell is going to be dry, and that will kind of wake you up into saying, okay, we are not going to put so much strain on this borewell, or maybe if there is still groundwater, you can dig deeper. It's not a good thing, but still that is what they can do with this kind of device, and that will also give the groundwater authority some control over how much water to be consumed from this. Say, for example, if the water level is really low in your borewell, the authority can say you cannot consume more than, they put a tariff limit on you. So you cannot consume more than so many liters in a day because your water level is already so low. If you continue at this high level, you're going to deplete it. So there is a kind of check and control on how much water can be extracted from that borewell before you kill it. So that way, these two technologies will definitely help monitoring and making sure the wells don't run dry.
So your smart meters are now installed in Bangalore and which other places?
So we are installed in Odisha. Okay. So WATCO is the water board for Odisha. Unlike BWSSB, which is for Bangalore, WATCO is for the whole of the state of Odisha. So they don't only control Bhubaneswar, it's also like
The entire state.
entire city. entire cities, all the cities there. So we supply a lot of meters to them. And also in the Delhi NCR region, Delhi Jal Board also has metering in place, and various utilities.
I'm interested to know because you're getting this data. So how is it different with the way people in Bangalore under the BWSSB, how do they use water? How do people in Delhi NCR? How do people in the other places?
It's kind of similar. I think the average household consumption is about 600 liters in Bangalore. It is maybe about 400 liters or so in Odisha, a little lesser in Odisha. Delhi is a bit higher. So again, like there are a lot of articles on richer neighborhoods consuming a surplus amount of water. Why? Because of all the fancy showers and all that sort of thing, and cars and all that they want to clean. So they consume a lot more water than what the average would be.
But do you see that also
It's here, it's everywhere. I don't think there's so much of a difference. But in terms of Delhi and Bangalore, the difference is, I think in Delhi, the consumption is a lot higher because they are paying for next to nothing for 20,000 liters of water that is subsidized to them. Every month or so, I think it is 20,000 liters of water they are given. Or even, I'm not sure the figure, I can actually cross-check.
No, that's fine. Okay.
So it is at a very subsidized rate, and there's no value to it. So they are not actually metering what is there. They're going to check if the meter is there or not. That's all they care about, because only if you have a meter you can get the subsidy of free water. So they are not bothered what they consume because it doesn't matter. And the coffers of the DJB I hear are quite dry because of these kind of schemes. It's free. So and then they don't have, like you said, no money to invest in other things, maintaining the meters, maintaining the pipeline infrastructure. It's hard because they're not taking revenue out of it.
Raghu, I'm just interested to know, because you've been in this business for like 25 years. I'm sure you would have spoken to so many bureaucrats, IS officers, politicians. What really goes on in their heads when it comes to water?
So
because I don't see those things, I don't see major changes outside here. People say, yes, they have these meetings, they're doing this, they're doing that. What really goes on?
So dealing with any of these bureaucrats would be like dealing with the CEO of any other commercial enterprise. At least when in the top level, when you talk to the chief engineer or any engineers, they are extremely qualified. They are there for a reason. When you speak to them, they're very knowledgeable of what they're doing. They really understand the ground reality of what is happening also. They know which tech is useful for what kind of problem to solve. And especially a board like the BWSSB, they have been pioneering a lot of initiatives and they're very open to embracing technology. And so when you speak to them, they are very focused on this one word, they call it NRW, non-revenue water. So we're doing all this effort, all this revenue is being lost because of leakages, because of pilferage, a lot of different issues that the board will face on a day-to-day basis. They're very focused on, okay, how do we reduce the NRW? How do we reduce the NRW? And they do have a lot of people assisting them. They work with IISc, they work with IITs. They have consultants, very world-class consultants that they talk to, and they will not have a meeting without all these people present. So they behave very much like any other commercial enterprise. And their goal is really, at least with boards like VATCO, BWSSB and all, they're very focused on reducing the NRW. And these boards do have actually funds to undertake kind of large scale. See, now when we go to them and say, hey, I have something for leak detection, if you are going to address leak detection here, they are thinking even more long term. They're thinking, there's no point cutting these leaks. We have the funds where this whole section, we are actually changing the whole pipeline. The whole infrastructure is aged. The lifetime is about 40 years, 30 years. It has been that much time. We are going to replace it all. And they are doing that. And I have a friend, Naresh Narasimhan, he's making the drains, storm drains and all, and a common line for all this, which has not been done so far. So they are investing a lot into this kind of long-term infrastructure. Like next 40 years, this section of pipeline on this road, there will be no leakage. So they are looking at it that way. They are trying, I think, to their best to do what they can.
You know, the interesting thing is when we talk about technology and water, the first place or the first country that comes to my mind is Israel.
Yeah.
And you have been associated with them. And I just want to know, how do they manage water? I speak to all my experts, all my guests, especially on Israel, because water is
Right. Now,
So you were telling me they have some 3 different pipes.
I used to work with an Israeli company, with 2 few Israeli companies. They and I visited the country. It's a desert. It's obviously there's nothing there. They have no means of fresh water except for the sea, and they pioneered desalination, which kind of helps them in so many ways. And so what they've done is every household or every place that is there all has a connection. There's no such thing as off the grid. Now, if you go to some Sarjapur and all that, so many places don't have a BWSP connection. There's nothing there. Here, the water only comes from one.
Because
source.
they have a water balance policy.
Yes.
Water does belong to an individual person.
Exactly. So water is only from one source for the whole, everyone. There's no borewell. Just because you have a borewell doesn't mean you are off the grid. You have to get water from here. And they have 3 meters. One for fresh water for them to drink for consumption. One for like showering and things of that nature, like in the bathroom, your hand wash or shower. And one for other stuff like flushing and you're cleaning your floor, your car. That's a different pipeline. So, and they're all color coded. I don't recall the colors, but if you see that line, okay, that's the fresh water line, that's the grey water, that's the best. So, and that's why they recycle a lot. 80% of the water is recycled. And a lot of this recycled water they put in the farming. So you'll be shocked if you go to, you think in a desert, what do they eat? They have the best fruits. You can see their farms, they have, lush fruits in the supermarket and very tasty fruits. And they love fruits, they eat a lot of fruits. And like, how are you guys growing this in the middle of the desert? And like, because we don't waste water. Everything is utilized where it should be. And that's how they're able to thrive.
That's why I want to come back again over here. Since you've been dealing with the BWSSB, the officials and bureaucrats and politicians for so many years, you suppose they had the will to change Bengaluru into another Israel? I mean, can we do it, or are we controlled by vote banking politics?
There are lots of people who would want to see this change.
The moment you increase rates,
but the point is, it is not with the power of the water board itself. The water board is powerless. But they're powerless. They can't. If another politician comes, the minister level politics happen. These guys are just pawns to be used. So water utility has no decision making ability, I think, over these matters. If they say you're going to subsidize it, I don't know what anybody can do. So that should change at a very high level, I would say. Not at even a utility is a power.
But there is a will we can change.
I think it should come really from the people. We should be like, okay, we will treat water like petrol. And then that mindset and like we're talking about Israel, right? And that mindset is there. It's not something that's happened overnight. It's for generations. They have this way they think about water because their grandparents and all that didn't have water. They would struggle to get water. Water in a running tap is a privilege that we often forget, but they don't forget it because they still remember the time or are reminded of the time where things were so difficult. And they using that they have tied into this society where that is so conscious in the way they use water because it is so high in their mind. So I guess we don't want Bangalore to become a desert, but we should wake up and start thinking about water at least 50% of how they do, and it will definitely change the way we use it. It is definitely going to make the resource as valuable, as it really is.
Raghu, we've had a really interesting conversation. The biggest takeaway from this for me would be, when you mentioned that the person was not at home, but he was still saying that he's being billed. So I guess having a smart meter ultimately will tell us not just about water management, but also if you're wasting water, because ultimately it's about water conservation.
Thousands of liters wasted over months.
One drop, yes. So I think the drop every second is a lot. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Noah, for having me.